want to create events that students actually want to go to and increase turnouts at already existing events. We want to work closely with Greek life, athletics, and clubs and organizations to achieve this goal. With 2 Greek life presidents on my slate, we already have a strong built-in connection to help execute these ideas and reach more students. The main goal is to bring back campus culture where students are excited to come to campus and like the Bulldog tradition once was. For my next point, Fresno State already provides a wide variety of services that support students.
That is time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aliyah Hassan, and I'm a 4th-year social work major here at Fresno State. I'll be entering the graduate social work program this upcoming fall. I'm also part of the current ASI. I sit as the ASI Senator for the College of Health and Human Services, so shout out to CHHS. Outside of ASI, I work part-time as a secretary over at Fresno Unified within the Office of Community Schools, and I also intern at the Fresno Public Defender's Office as a defense social work intern. So my schedule gets pretty packed. However, my favorite thing this year has been to do ASI work consistently because I've been able to do so much good with it. From renovating student spaces on campus to hand-making emergency ice whistles, shout out to everyone who helped me, to giving out graduation souls for my CHHS majors. I've been able to help support students in so many ways, and I want to expand on this work as president to continue to create tangible change here on campus. This includes some of my campus points in promoting affordability, which means giving out gas cards, textbook vouchers, expanding for free food vending machines.
Hi everyone, my name is Maris Prado, and I've had the honor of serving as your Jordan College Senator and now as your Executive Vice President, and I'm running to be your next ASI President. The role of President isn't just a title. It means serving as a Chief Executive Officer of a nonprofit corporation that represents over 23,000 students. It's about making decisions that directly impact your experience here at Fresno State and making sure that your voice is not just heard, but advocated on and acted on. Through my time at ASI, I've been able to turn student concerns into real outcomes, from creating student spaces like the Ag Patio and South Valley Patio, to launching a paid internship, to expanding access to campus resources. Those experiences have prepared me to lead effectively from day one. For me, this work has never been about checking a box. During the fall semester and even outside of campaign season, I'm in the ASI office from 9 to 5. Not because I have to be, but because I genuinely care about Fresno State Bulldogs. I have both the skill and the will to do this job. I'm ready to continue advocating for you, expanding opportunities, and building a stronger campus together.
Beginning with the first question, what do you believe is the biggest issue concerning Fresno State students today? Beginning with Ms. Cannon.
Well, one of the big issues that I've noticed on campus, as I said before, is when talking to a lot of students during tabling, students have said that they don't go to events on campus, or it's just not out there enough for them to know about. And that is exactly what I want to change here on campus. This fall semester, 60% of clubs had their IRA funding requests denied, and this alone did not give clubs and student organizations the resources that they needed to successfully run their events and clubs, which is in turn decreases student engagement here on campus. And also, after speaking with the Fresno State baseball team, Ton Goodwin, who is the director of player development, pulled me and my slate mate to the middle of the field and told us to look.
For me, one of the biggest issues that I see affecting Fresno State students is most definitely affordability. A lot of us work part-time jobs or even full-time jobs and have so many responsibilities to take care of that we just don't have the luxury to be at any leisure events. A lot of what our concerns are with the rising tuition costs, everyday costs. I mean, gas is $6 a gallon, hello. And it's a little hard for us to be able to balance your education with everyday rising costs. So affordability has been a huge thing on students' minds. When I've been campaigning, it comes up a lot. And people get really, really excited over having the opportunity to have available resources to them that can help alleviate some of their financial burdens. So any type of support that we can give to students to help address their financial needs is so, so important so that their basic needs can be met, because you shouldn't.
The biggest issue impacting college students right now at Fresno State is class availability. On average, it takes students over 4 years to graduate. And while students may want to graduate in 4 years, right now, because of prerequisites, co-requisites, holds on their account, and just not being able to get into the classes they need, they're unable to graduate in 4 years. A survey was pushed out, and on average, 7,331 students took 15 to 17 units, and over 18 units was 1,797 students. At about 10,000 students taking what they need to graduate in 4 years, they're not able to, just because they can't get into the classes they need. Serving on the Retention Improvement Committee this semester, I've been able to advocate to open more courses and expand course access so students can graduate on the timeline that they want. Some students may have caregiving responsibilities or work full-time, but if a student wants to graduate in 4 years, that possibility for students should exist. And under my leadership, I will advocate so it can exist.
We'll go to the next question, and we'll open up for rebuttal after this one. Starting with Ms. Hassan. How important will transparency and accountability be during your term as ASI president, and how will you execute this and be as transparent as possible?
Can you repeat the first part of the question, please?
How important will transparency and accountability be during your term as president?
Transparency is the biggest thing when it comes to just running a campaign in general. It's super important for us to be as transparent with students as possible. So it will be a priority in every initiative that I lead. We never want to mislead students with any projects that we want to push on because we want to make sure that they know what their fees are being reinvested into. So it will be the top of my priority with every project that I push, with every initiative that I run on, with any type of project that I lead. We're going to continue to make sure that transparency is at the very, very forefront of everything we do so students know where their money is going.
Ms. Prado? Same question to you, sorry.
Transparent advocacy is super important. Student fees fund ASI, and so making sure that we're able to serve students the way they want to be served is essential to me. Earlier this year, I launched Bulldog Voices, a real-time advocacy platform so students are able to contribute to decision-making. From there, they elected their top 4 priorities. One of those priorities was paid opportunities on our campus. As we previously mentioned, affordability is important, and with that, I want there to be stable ability for them to be able to fund their way through college with these paid internships. I was able to open 6 paid internships this past year, and I want to be able to open more paid opportunities for our students in the upcoming year. Transparency is important, and so I try to connect with students in person through platforms like Bulldog Voices with a diverse Senate and a diverse executive board. That's why I decided to not run with anyone.
And then we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Canyon.
So transparency to me starts with ensuring that students know what is happening on campus and how to get involved. I feel this goes hand in hand with student engagement and awareness of student resources. Right now, I feel that many students don't know that they are allowed to attend ASI meetings every week, or even the real job of ASI. I sure didn't before I started running. And to ensure the transparency, I want to better promote ASI meetings and clearer communication between ASI and the students about what actually happens during those meetings that directly affect the students. At the end of the day, transparency is not only about making information available to the students, but it's about reaching out to the students and making it easier for them to enter these big discussions on issues that directly concern them.
Are there any rebuttals from the candidates before we move on? One thing before we want to go on to the next question, we will be adding 15 seconds of speaking time to you guys to answer questions. We feel like you guys are rushing. We want to give you guys more time to answer the questions.
So each candidate will now have 1 minute to answer each question. Ms. Prado, can you speak to one organization you're involved with outside of ASI and how that helps further your mission as a leader?
Yes, I'm a part of over 15 organizations. I just posted my endorsement today, but I'm also a part of Kappa Alpha Theta. Through that sorority, we're able to do philanthropic efforts within the community. We work closely with court-appointed special advocates as well as the Ronald McDonald Foundation to be able to provide resources for students in our community and students going through the foster care system and needing an advocate there to support them. On my free time, I like making flower bouquets and donating them to the Ronald McDonald cause, but we're only as strong as the community around us, so that's been been something that I'm really, really grateful to be able to engage in and participate with, as well as the other over 15 clubs that I'm a part of. I just love being able to connect with fellow Bulldogs. It makes my day to be able to talk to people. And so as active and involved as I try to be, all of my memberships are on my Instagram. But yeah.
Ms. Cannon?
So I am a part of the moot court team here on campus, and this directly translates to what ASI leadership should have. Moot court is built on the premise of oral advocacy and being able to clearly, confidently, and persuasively represent an issue, which will directly translate to being ASI president. It taught me how to be able to argue both sides of an issue, which is an essential skill for student government. I was also further just elected as the moot court vice president for the upcoming academic year, and this further shows that I am prepared to be a leader who is ready to advocate for what students want and need, regardless of their position. This is exactly who I want to be as ASI president, someone who can understand both perspectives and of complex issues and be an advocate for student solutions and opinions.
Last year, I served as the vice president of the Social Work Student Association, and currently I am a member of the Social Work Student Association. We just wrapped up a 5K run in support of Foster Care Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness Month. Outside of Fresno State, I volunteer at a elementary school, and I've been doing that for the last 3 years as a mentor. So I facilitate mentor sessions with 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students to focus on their social and emotional development. And through my work as the volunteer, I've been able to really connect with students to be able to continue to push for that type of initiatives to focus on youth specifically. And it kind of translated into my work within ASI because I volunteered at Kirk Elementary School, and I loved that school so much that I wanted to work on a toy drive, which again, I put some people to work. Thank you so much for all your help. I did a toy drive to help those students in need for Christmas, for the holidays, and they all were awarded, we were able to sponsor 40 students with gifts, and then the surplus amount of gifts were donated to parent scholars. So a lot of my initiatives are focused on philanthropic things.
Time.
Ms. Cannon, being ASI president often requires 30+ hours per week, including internal operations, campus-wide committees, and frequent travel. How do you plan to effectively manage these responsibilities while maintaining balance and ensuring you remain accessible to all students?
I am committed to balancing all of these responsibilities. One main way is to divide the workload among all of the ASI officers and senators and everything like that. I believe that it is important to rely on other students who are a part of ASI who also have good ideas and opinions. It shouldn't all just be let on one person as ASI president. We can work together as the whole student body of ASI and really work to represent student issues and things that are important to the students here on campus. And that also goes hand in hand with me wanting to build community at Fresno State and increase student engagement, because if we can all work together to tackle these issues, we can do it more quickly and effectively.
Ms. Hassan?
The role of ASI president does require so much time and so much commitment, and it's not an easy one at all. I've shared briefly in the beginning of my opening statement about my involvement. I do balance a part-time job and a part-time internship with my involvement with ASI, and that does become a lot. But in this role as ASI president, I will step away from all of those roles to give ASI my full 100%, because that is what's required of it. To be an effective leader, you have to be able to commit that time. You have to put in the work ethic. You have to take on all those responsibilities. And I know that it's a lot, and I know that I have the leadership skills and all the interpersonal skills to make sure that I'm an effective leader in this role.
Ms. Prado?
One way I'll be able to manage the workload is that right now I'm executive vice president and I'm in the office every day besides campaign season from 9 to 5. My priority in life and my mission in life is to serve students. When I was a young girl, I would always go in my mom's classroom and help her sharpen pencils and get ready for her classroom because I love serving students. Right now, throughout my involvement in all these organizations and as executive vice president, I love serving students, and my life goal is to eventually be a professor and a dean of a college because I'm just passionate about making sure that youth have the opportunity for social mobility in the future. Experience leadership is kind of the platform that I'm running on as well. When I was JCAS senator, it took me a semester to be able to author a proposal for an ag patio. However, now as executive vice president, it took me 1 hour to do the South Valley proposal. On the van ride back, I immediately put on my hotspot, got my computer out, and started typing because students needed a place to build community. And so experienced leadership is essential just because our year is finite and it's only a 1-year term. And so being able to make the most impact possible.
We'll go into a more open-ended question. We'll start this question with Ms. Hassan. Where do you think Fresno State needs the most help, and where would you like to pour resources in to help make this campus better?
Tying back into affordability, I think Fresno State needs the most help in addressing basic needs. So that includes food insecurity, that includes cost for textbook and voucher for textbooks, that also includes just offering more financial stability for students to be able to offset any other costs that they may have in order to alleviate some of the workload that they're already facing. So Fresno State needs to do better at trying to support students to meet their basic needs, and I am aiming to make sure that I pour into those resources, that we invest into the student cupboard to expand accessibility to food, to promote food security, that we expand into the Student Health and Counseling Center to make sure students are able to access those resources that they're already paying for so that they can get the most bang for their buck. And of course, as always, to continue to pour into other initiatives to focus on just addressing basic needs with other programs across campus and focus on the ones that are overlooked, such as the Parent Scholars Program. We have parents on campus who are unable to afford formula, who are unable to afford diapers for their kids. So we need to continue to pour into these services so students can.
Ms. Prado, your response?
Basic needs is something that's very important to me as well. The Essential Needs Office this semester, we were able to allocate funding for 2 interns for them so they could better support how many students were coming into their office. They didn't have enough personnel to be able to handle all of their caseloads, so the interns were able to alleviate some of that through funding it. As well, they do 100 meals for 8 weeks this semester in being able to provide different meal opportunities for students on our campus. However, the Cupboard and Essential Needs Office are just a small subsection of our campus. One of my priorities is to put more microwaves around campus and more mini fridges around campus and partner with the Essential Needs Office and the Cupboard. That way students can have access to food if they're a graduate student or they come to campus a little bit later. No matter where they're at on campus, there's food available for them all throughout campus. The second subsection would be commuter support. Students who come to campus and ride the bus. I want to put more bus stops around campus for them, as well as advocate for more frequent bus routes. That way they don't have to wait as long between classes and waiting for classes.
We're now going to open this next segment up to rebuttals if the candidates have any. So you will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal starting now.
We can start this one. Sorry about that. We'll wrap this question up with Ms. Canyon, then we'll open up for that.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yeah, so as I said before, my biggest issue here on campus is our lack of sense of community as we used to be. As I stated before, 60% of clubs in the fall had their IRA funds denied, making it hard for them to run their clubs effectively. And after talking to Tom Goodwin, who is the director of player development for the Fresno State baseball team, he took me and my slate mate, Sean, to the middle of the field and told us to look at the empty stadium. And he said that this is what they look at almost every home game. They have no support at their games. And this also ties into at the Save Mart Center too, which seats 15,000 people. However, this season alone, the men's basketball team only accumulated about 3,617 people per game. This is a real issue that we don't have support backing our school, and we are lacking a sense of community. And some things to fix these issues that I've been throwing around is to make a big group meet next year with all the executives from every club, every sports team, and every Greek life house, so we can share these events through one forum. And if we get more clubs, Greek life.
Okay. We will now open this up for rebuttals on this previous question. We will start this with Ms. Cannon again.
I also want to add that Fresno State already provides a wide variety of services and supports for students, including pharmacy, sexual health services, gender-affirming care, and so much more. The central issue is that students don't know about a lot of them, and therefore don't utilize them. Instead of immediately pushing to spend more money on creating new programs, I want to focus on better promoting and capitalizing off these resources that we already have and already exist here on our campus. If Fresno State students are made more aware of these existing services, then we can put more money towards fostering a better community here on campus and bringing back the Bulldog spirit that we used to have before COVID.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon. We'll take this now to Ms. Hassan.
I think building community is great, and I think having microwaves is also great, but what we need to really prioritize is making sure students have food to put in the microwave. We need to make sure that students have food accessible to them first and foremost, because that should be a priority. You shouldn't have to pick between deciding if you should pay for your meal or pay for your education. So we have to continue to funnel sources, funnel funding into initiatives, into programs such as the student cupboard to make sure that students are well fed and don't have to choose between one or the other. Those need to be our priorities. Students are struggling to eat. Students are struggling to pay for their bills. Students are struggling to make basic needs have them being met. And so we need to make that our priority before anything.
And then we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Prado.
The Essential Needs Office right now partners with the cupboard to be able to make meals for students, and so those microwaves and fridges would have meals in them. That way students can conveniently have access to food that's going to sustain them throughout their class, no matter where they go on campus, at different campus locations. As far as IRA funds, the president chairs the IRA committee, and there's hundreds of applications, but a finite amount of funds that the ARO committee is able to be in charge of. And so continuation in leadership allows for processes to evolve in efficiency. Since the IRA president chairs the committee and executives currently sit on the IRA committee, I'm able to see the process now and see how we can be more efficient and effective in upcoming years as well.
Ms. Hassan, ASI controls millions in student fees, yet most students couldn't tell you where that money goes. So why should students trust you with that power, and what would you immediately make public that currently is not?
I think ASI has always been built on transparency. I mean, one of our priorities now this year is to make sure that we are as transparent as possible with where our money goes. And so that should be first and foremost laid out on the line for students to know where their money is going into. For me, to make sure that students know that this money will be well spent I do have my campaign points on exactly what I'm going to do. Those students will see exactly where that money goes into with the projects that funnel afterwards. We need to be able to clarify to students exactly how we're going to do the work and where it's going to go into, and that of course comes with transparency. Students will see where their money is going through these different initiatives, through these different projects that they'll see fall into during your term as president, of course.
Ms. Prado?
Yeah, students trust us with their student fees, and they should deserve to have a say in where their money goes. Through the pilot program Bulldog Voices, they were able to click the priorities that mattered most to them, and that was able to provide me guidance throughout my year, to be able to advocate and spend student dollars on what actually matters to students. And so through that pilot program, I want to continue with that in upcoming years. That way students have a say in where their student dollars are going. Throughout my campaign, I've campaigned in 8 different colleges, and I've made it a point to go throughout the university to gain different perspectives throughout this campaign trail. And that's because representation is nothing without accurate perspective. Being able to talk to students from all different types of college, all different areas of campus is my goal. That way they're being served and they're being led in a way that they want to be served and led. And that way they have a say in what's going on and how they like being advocated for and the projects that they want to see is directly through student feedback.
And we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Canyon.
So I want to touch on that because that is exactly right. There are so many little fees and things that students here have to pay for on top of their already expensive tuition and housing and things like that. Just to graduate, it is $63. Why should we have to pay a fee to get an award that we worked 4 years to work for? And things like that. I want to create more transparency with that and make sure that students know exactly where their money is going, instead of having a bunch of little hidden fees like credit card taxes when you pay your student debt, when you're already paying thousands of dollars for school itself. So I want to make sure that students know where they can go to access this information to see exactly where their money is going, that they're paying for their education for.
We will go to rebuttals for this question, then we will go to the next one. We'll start with Ms. Hassan for this one.
I just want to also elaborate on ensuring that students know where their money is going into. Every initiative that we push in ASI, of course, has to be student-centered, and that includes making sure that students know or are coming to us with their concerns of what we should address. So conducting a survey is great, talking to students is great. Those are all important things that we already do and that I will continue to do as president, is to make sure that students come to us whenever they have a concern. Throughout my campaign, students have already brought so many things to my attention that need to be addressed, and I've continued to cultivate that and add that into my campaign in any way that I can. So that includes campus infrastructure, that includes anytime someone mentioned that there was a building that needed assistance in with maintenance or with ventilation or, God forbid, mold. Like, these things need to be brought up to us.
Ms. Prado?
The CSU Chancellor's Office identified one way that they want to improve campuses throughout the California State University system is through deferred maintenance. So that's something that is planning to be rolled out with the tuition increases. They want to start prioritizing deferred maintenance on different campuses. As far as transparent advocacy, another thing I want to roll out throughout next year is monthly newsletters from ASI, telling students exactly what went on throughout the month, as well as what Senate meetings are happening, what events are happening, and transparent advocacy in the form of a little newsletter. We currently do booth hours, and every senator is required to do 2 booth hours, and executives are required to do 4 booth hours. But giving out these little newsletters throughout the booth would be helpful in seeing how your student representatives are able to advocate for you, as well as give you more.
And then we'll wrap this portion up with Ms. Canyon.
After tabling, not only do students are not aware of events here on campus, but they're also not aware of their resources and ways to access information. And one way that I want to try to remedy that is making a centralized social media or website that has every single resource and information log that campus here has to offer, instead of letting students have to go navigate through different websites, different Instagrams, different club websites to try to find the information that they need and resources that they need here on campus. I want to make it more accessible for students to be able to go on there and find their information easily so they can stay educated on the things here on campus that is happening, especially the hidden fees.
Nailing in on the parking issue, because I know that's a topic that a lot of people on campus have had the issue of. It's a concern that students raise every year, and it's often a campaign process that people always run on to change it, but it really seems like nothing really gets changed. Ms. Prado, what's kind of your main focus point on parking specifically on the campus?
Parking specifically, this past year I was working on a project to be able to allocate more spaces on our campus and more convenient spaces on our campus. However, the university is on a tighter budget, and so that was unable to be done, and that's why I didn't run on that point, because I'm not going to sit here and lie to students who place their trust in me. And so the university instead was able to allocate a Bulldog shuttle and revive that system. That was an initiative they did years past, and that's why I wanted to run on bus stops to make sure that students have a convenient place to stay, and that's why I'm running on the bus stop frequency as well. And that way, buses are able to come more frequently to campus, and students have a place to sit under them. But as far as parking, I wasn't gonna lie to students and say I was gonna open more spots when the university has hard places where they can say no, and they've said no in the past. So,
Ms. Canyon.
I also agree with that there's no quick fix to the parking that can happen in the next year, especially like ideas like building a parking structure. It's just not viable to happen in 1 year. It's expensive and time consuming. But we do have the Bulldog Express here on campus, and it has 6 stops all around campus and runs 7 a.m. through 10 p.m. And we have 24,000 students at our school, yet the Bulldog Express only averages about 500 to 600 users monthly. This is just showing that our students are not aware of this resource or are not utilizing it like they could be. If we had more students utilizing this resource on campus, we could eliminate maybe at least some of the parking issues that students have here with finding spots going to class. This ties into making it more aware, so adding permanent bus stops and more stops around campus so students can use this resource more effectively.
And then we will wrap this question up with Ms. Hassan.
Parking is definitely the biggest issue we see on campus. And if you look into past ASIs, they've all ran on parking, and every single one of them quickly learned that it's just something that you cannot fix. So just like the other two candidates, we're also just not running on parking. We don't want to mislead students. We want to be as transparent as possible. What we can do, however, is offer parking solutions. So one of that includes offering a payment plan for your parking passes. It's $93. It could be split into 4 different payments so that you can take your time to pay that off, because it is a lot of money. Another thing that has been brought to our attention as well is the way that these gas cards initiatives that we're going to push on also help with parking. You need to get to school some way, one way or another, and providing those gas cards to you will help with commuters. It helps with commuter support as well. So we don't want to mislead students when it comes to that. We're not running on parking. We don't want to, but we do want to find solutions to make it accessible, to make things easier, and to alleviate any of the burden that parking already places on students.
Beginning with Ms. Cannon, looking at previous Fresno State ASIs, what is something you would like to do differently?
Something I would like to do differently is increase our community here on campus again. I have not seen any other ASI candidates run on trying to foster a better community here at our school, where students are not intimidated to go out and meet new people and attend events and things like that. I want to focus on finding solutions to making more events and bigger things on campus. Some of these things is maybe assigning each Greek life house to a sports team. So whichever Greek house gets the most people to show up to their event, they get some sort of incentive or prize. And this could help get more people to support our athletics. And also maybe having a point system where maybe each event or sports game that a student attends, if they are in the top 5% or 10% of students who attended the most sports games or events in the year, they can get priority registration for their classes, because that is also a big issue we have here on campus. A lot of students are struggling to get registration for their classes. And so this can increase the student engagement while also helping students for real issues that they have every day.
Ms. Hassan.
Something that I would like to do differently is really prioritize advocacy in everything that I do. I think what ASI needs to do differently is to have maybe a centralized area in which students can come to us for their direct concerns, whether it's individual student concerns or whether they're part of a club and need assistance. And in talking about clubs, a lot of clubs have reached out and talked about what some of their concerns are. And I think this is something that ASI could do, is create perhaps monthly meetings in which club officers can come together and just ask ASI for questions about funding, about grants, and about how the process works for that. I think a lot of clubs need the support. A lot of clubs require the advocacy, and ASI needs to do better at kind of bridging that gap to make sure that we do our job and being the linkage between the administration and between the students. And that means connecting with the clubs to make sure that we can help them in any way we can. And that also funnels back into students, to going back to directly help students. We're just going to continue to advocate for them and make sure that there is a spot for them to come to us for their concerns, to come to us when there's an issue that we can and have the power to address.
Ms. Prado.
I think resource partnerships are something that I want to continue and look into more throughout the upcoming year. This past year, I made resource pens, and they were really cool pens. You could pull them down and see the different resources we offered at Fresno State, and I was able to print out more resource sheets for our students. However, how valuable is a resource if you go and it's impacted and they're not able to help you to the fullest extent? So partnerships with them after that is super critical to me. We were able to partner with the Dream Success Center and the Essential Needs Office this past year. During ASI Senate budget call, they were able to get $30,000 for a grocery assistance program, but not only advocating on behalf of students going to the resource, but also following through and making sure that those resources have the capability to be able to support them. Throughout my time as executive vice president, something that was important to me was to reach out to different departments, and I have a different department that comes to Senate every single meeting, because advocacy is important when our elected officials know about resources and students know about resources, but then also following through and making sure those resources are able to support our students.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. We will go to our next question. Stepping in with any leadership role, there's going to come with criticism, especially becoming the ASI president. We'll start this with Ms. Hassan. How do you focus on dealing with large amount of criticism if elected into this role?
I think in every role that you take, you will be criticized. And in the role of ASI president, you have to expect criticism. You are representing over 25,000 students. It's a lot of responsibility, and you need to take into consideration that every student is going to come to you for every concern that they have. You're the face of the student body. You are the first person that they want to connect to. As a senator myself, I know that students do not come directly to me. They will skip past whoever they need to in order to talk to the president, because that is the person who is supposed to represent them. So criticism is expected, and honestly, I think it's very much needed, because no one is perfect. We should be criticized for the work that we're doing in order to continue to polish it, to work on it, and make it better than what the criticism was given to. So it's really important. I think I think constructive criticism is so needed. I will take that into consideration and change anything that I need to change in order to better serve students.
Thank you, Ms. Hassan. Ms. Prado, to you.
With criticism, I'm all about just making change and accepting that feedback. I had a student earlier this past year come to me, and they were criticizing why there wasn't shade by the Joyelle bus stop. And so from there, I was able to advocate and elevate their voice to administration, and we got a bus stop installed. And then we did a tree planting. But what started off as criticism later became an initiative that was fruitful. So being able to see what the student is criticizing, and from there advocate appropriately so change can be made, is ultimately my priority. Yeah.
Thank you. And then we'll finish this question up with Ms. Canyon.
In terms of criticism, I want to point out that Fresno State strives on our diversity, and that includes having different perspectives on different issues. Not every student is going to agree with everything that I stand for, and that can go both ways. And I feel like as my job as ASI president, this would be to not pick sides, but instead help guide these tough conversations that students may have and put them in a productive direction that goes towards a solution or even a common ground that we can find. My biggest priority is listening to student voices. Regardless of what I may think, whatever the students need, that is going to be my priority. I want to amplify student voices and make sure that every voice is heard so conflict doesn't arise. Criticism is going to be there regardless, but we can do our best to have these forums where students can express their concerns, and so it can be properly addressed as ASI president.
We will open this question up for rebuttals. We'll start the rebuttals with Ms. Hassan here.
I think just kind of tying back into what's already been said, criticism definitely, you will receive criticism in ASI no matter what your position is, but especially as president. As senator myself, I received a lot of criticism when I pushed back against a action item that was brought to ASI to fund $16,000 to allocate for the New York Times subscription. I received a lot of criticism for that. I honestly received also racism, and I got nasty emails sent to me about my disdain over the New York Times. And that typically would push people back down, and it would make them feel small. However, it just empowered me to know that there are people watching, and that it's important for us to continue to advocate for students and to continue to push for initiatives that are going to benefit students. So criticism is very much needed.
Thank you, Ms. Prado.
I think perspective is very, very valuable. Throughout my different club involvements and going to each college and just being able to reach a different population of students that I normally interact with, that's been extremely, extremely valuable. ASI is a nonpartisan organization that represents and advocates on behalf of every single student on our campus. We all pay student fees, and so we all deserve to be advocated for and advocated on behalf of. And so I think valuing all perspectives and being able to take their criticism and make change or elevate their voice is just super important. So, yeah.
And then we'll lastly go to Ms. Cannon, and then we'll go to the next question.
Again, to reiterate, it is important that we listen to all these diverse opinions on campus. I mean, even me being a political science major, in classes, there's always a multitude of different opinions, and that is what fosters a beneficial educational environment. Listening to different opinions and solutions for a number of issues that we have on campus. If we can listen to every student and try to foster solutions and different ideas, combining all the diversity that we strive on here at Fresno State, I feel like this can really make a beneficial impact to not only educate students, but use this platform to respect other opinions as well.
Thank you.
This is a question that was submitted anonymously by a student. What will you do, starting with Ms. Hassan, what will you do to address the potential for students in facing retaliation, including fraud?
Can you repeat that question?
What will you do to address the potential for students in facing retaliation, including fraud?
I'm so sorry. The potential
of students facing retaliation and fraud within the school system.
I think when students are targeted, that is when advocacy comes into play. And so we have to, first of all, this may be the social worker in me. We need to do a needs assessment to make sure that to find out what the issue is that the student is dealing with. So when they are being retaliated, find out what the context of that situation is and find out who we need to talk to kind of address it. In that case, mediation is necessary. So connect with any stakeholders that are involved to address the issue, make sure that the student feels like there is a space for them. If they feel like they're being retaliated, figure out why that is and work with every party involved to address what's going on and find a way to kind of solve it. With regards to fraud, I think it's just all about finding who is the right person to talk to, because there's a lot of people who are involved in decision making, but not everyone has the resources to help you. But ASI is here to make sure that the student who feels like they're being retaliated against has that support and has a president who's willing to back them up in the event that they need that.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Prado next.
I think just being able to talk to the student and then identify either the proper resource or proper channel in which they're able to be best supported. But if not, if those results or if that isn't fruitful, the ASI president also meets with the university president one-on-one. And some of those conversations can be fruitful in just being able to direct them to the proper channel. And so sometimes the university president is able to better advocate or better direct the student if the ASI president is unable to I guess, address them or channel them to the right place. But just talking to the student, identifying what the concern is and being able to best help them from there.
Thank you. And then we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Canyon.
I think this ties into a big concern that maybe a lot of students have on campus, which is safety. And whatever that may look like to you as a student, it can differ throughout all of our different perspectives that we have on Fresno State campus. But whatever safety looks like to you, that goes back into opening up these student forums and allowing students to express their issues and ideas. Because if they feel like if they are facing retaliation for some reason, that is on the job of ASI to listen to those concerns, respect the different opinion, and also look at what safety would look like for them and what would help them out.
Thank you. We'll start this question with Ms. Prado. Speaking of safety, student organizations such as Greek Life play a big role in campus culture. However, questions arise when it comes to safety regarding Greek Life. We all saw the Iowa video that came out earlier this year. How would you make students feel safe on campus, supported, and welcome into a new environment?
Yeah, I think students' sense of belonging is very, very important. And Greek Life and different campus clubs and organizations help facilitate some of that sense of belonging. But no student deserves to feel at harm or at risk of their safety. And so I think being an ASI, we represent and we advocate on behalf of all students. And so if a student came to me concerned about their safety, whether that's the Title IX office, Dean Stevenson, or talking to the student and advocating for them to get the appropriate care and appropriate attention that they need and deserve, is very, very valuable to me. But I think it all just stems through conversations and through my past experience being able to work with different departments or administrators. Through conversations with them, I'll go with them or I'll direct them to the right place depending on what they would prefer. But no student deserves to feel unsafe on our campus. We all go to school here and we all just want to get our education and want to have a sense of belonging on this campus. And so just talking to them and telling students I support them, but also showing them I support them is really valuable to me.
Thank you. Ms. Canyon?
So to touch on the safety aspect, every student deserves to feel secure and like they go to a safe learning environment. And that kind of ties into one point that the Collegian published an article addressing how Fresno State has not prepared students in the event of a school shooting. It addressed how students on campus do not know what to do in this situation and nor have been informed or trained on what to do in these situations. I feel it is important that this information can be made accessible to students, and that is along with all other safety concerns that students may have. If they have these concerns, that is because they don't know what to do in these situations if they feel unsafe. And that is on the backs of ASI to present this information and solutions to these reasons why students may feel unsafe on campus.
Thank you. And then we'll finish this question with Ms. Hassan.
Safety is definitely a priority, no matter what organization that you're involved in. Kind of going back into what the question was centered around, which was Greek life. I think there needs to be a clearer expectation of what safety looks like for those students involved in those Greek organizations and outside of it as well. We need to make sure that students have the proper channels that they can go to when they feel unsafe because of a different org or because of a club. But outside of that, safety should also just be a priority in general. When it comes to, if you're walking at night, there should be lit spaces so that you don't feel unsafe. You should have access to campus PD to walk you to your car if you feel unsafe. Safety is just all across the board, should be a priority and should be mitigated through ASI efforts in general.
Thank you. And then Paloma will ask the next question.
Ms. Cannon, you mentioned some students, quote, might not agree with your priorities. Can you please share what some of those priorities are?
Well, like I've said before, my biggest priority here is student engagement. And what I meant by some students may not agree with it is that may not be the biggest issue to some other students here on campus, but it is a big issue for me. It has been a personal issue for me attending Fresno State. When I first got here my freshman year, before I had the blessing of being able to join the moot court team, I did not have a club or any sort of community here on campus. I felt I almost felt like an outsider here, and I was struggling to attend classes and things like that. My grades were falling, and I feel like that is an issue that I hope other students can relate to. And even if it's not, that's why I also wanted to touch on bringing awareness to campus resources that students can go to and use if they also have these same issues or even different issues, which is also why I want to make sure that student advocacy is a big part of my administration, making sure that I hear student voices and what may be important to them, even if it's not the same thing that may be important to me or issues that I may have had.
To Ms. Hassan, kind of wording the question the same, how would you deal with students who may not necessarily agree with what you're running on to try and get them to kind of vote for you in a sense?
I think in general, you will never have the favor of every student, and that's okay. That's exactly what should happen. We should have a diverse group of opinion. We should have a diverse group of perspectives and ideas that go into it. So if a student is just not compelled by what I'm running on, I'm more than happy to sit with them and ask them what their concerns are, what their priorities are, what they think ASI and Fresno State should prioritize. So I think it's just all comes down to having a conversation and listening to them to know what their concerns are that we can bring to light, and also find ways to integrate it into the work that I do as president and the work that I'm currently doing right now as senator, and even just throughout my campaign. Because I've told students, if there's anything that comes up that you feel like it needs to be addressed, I could add that into my campaign, because what me and Sarai are running on are so broad, because we know that there's so many things that we can tackle. Campus infrastructure doesn't just include buildings, it includes spaces on campus, it includes outdoor charging stations for convenience and for safety, it includes just so many things that students are directly impacted by, and we continue to hear things from students about how we can incorporate it. And so that is just an example of what our leadership will look like when and if we're elected into ASI positions.
Thank you. And then to Ms. Prado, just how would you deal with students who may not necessarily agree with what you're running on and kind of dealing with that problem?
That's a great question, because it aligns with my fifth priority, real-time representation. Being able to see what students' concerns are and advocate appropriately for them. We're their elected officials, and they deserve to feel heard, and they deserve to know that their thoughts and their actions and their concerns are being acted on. And so the Microwave Initiative, I work at the Student Rec Center on weekends, and students were expressing concern to me that they didn't have microwaves around campus. It was just, within the student unions or the central part of campus, and from there we were able to allocate one to the cupboard. Students came to me concerned about the bus stop, and from there we were able to advocate to administration about the bus stop and installing it. Students came to me and they were concerned about just being drenched from the rain anytime it rains, and we started the Umbrella Loan Initiative program, where we put different umbrellas all throughout campus, because students don't deserve to be walking around campus with wet or soggy shoes. And so my fifth priority is real-time representation, because I want to hear students' concerns, and I want to make this a campus where students want to go to school.
Thank you. We will go into our next question, starting with Ms. Hassan. Serving as ASI president involves working closely with admin, faculty, and staff, spaces that can be intimidating for someone who's never done that before. How would you navigate these environments while effectively, advocating for students and getting students the needs that they need?
I think this is such a great question, because that is exactly what it feels like to be in a room with administration and you're the only student in that room. what you have to keep in mind is that you are the student voice. No matter what your position is in ASI, you are put on that committee, you are in that room to make sure that at the very forefront are student concerns. Behind every decision you do and behind everything that you say in these meetings are what is going to most benefit students. And so as ASI president, I will continue to make sure that that is at the forefront of every decision that I make, of every committee that I sit on, because honestly, let's be real here. Students are the university. We are the majority at a university, yet we're the minority in decision-making spaces. So it's so important to have an ASI president who's bold, who has the leadership skills, who has the advocacy skills to make sure that student concerns are at the forefront, and to not concede to administration, to not feel intimidated by them, because that is exactly what they may want. So it's important to have an ASI president who has that bold personality, and I do think that I have that exact personality to make sure that student initiatives and student concerns are at the very forefront in every decision that gets made within the administration.
Thank you, Ms. Hassan. We'll go to Ms. Prado next.
I think if students are placing their trust in you, it's your responsibility to be able to advocate on behalf of them and advocate appropriately. I think through working with administration, partnerships can be built, but also you have to speak the truth in meetings. I've gotten asked by administrators to serve specifically on their committees, and they've specifically asked for me because I always provide an honest, truthful, and candid response. I will tell administrators, hey, this process is too hard. If it's taking a group of administrators 2 hours to figure this out, how is a first-generation 17-year-old student able to advocate and for themselves and figure out this process? And so I will speak candidly and I will speak truthfully on behalf of the students who trusted me and elected me. And so it can be intimidating to be the only student, but students deserve someone who's going to speak the truth, and that's what I do.
Thank you. And then we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Canyon.
While speaking with administration and things like that may be intimidating, I am committed to being an oral advocate for students on campus. Like I said, being a part of Moot Court, it has given me the ability and confidence to be able to speak on issues that are important to students, especially to administration. And I feel like that also ties in with recognizing things that administration has done and not being afraid to speak up about them to their faces. I want to address that the president of our university, his salary has went up to over $500,000, yet fees on campus are still increasing, including tuition. And there's a lot of other hidden fees that a lot of students don't know about. It's $83 to attend the mandatory dog days just to enroll here at this school. Things like that is things that students don't want to be paying for. And then to see that the president's salary goes up, it's honestly disheartening. And it seems like, where is our money really going? And I feel like it's speaking on issues like that directly go against our administration. If that's what the students want to hear and that's what student voices want to represent, that is what I am here to advocate for.
This is the last question before we begin closing statements. So beginning with Ms. Hassan. Beginning with Ms. Prado. Fresno State's mission statement states that it will, quote, value integrity and transparency to enhance shared governance. Do you believe your campaign is upholding this mission, and how so?
Yes, I value transparency and advocacy. Like I mentioned, I've made it a point to go to each of the different 8 colleges and meet students where they're at. A lot of students don't necessarily always go to the core center of campus. And I remember when I was an agricultural student, I never went to the center of campus until I started getting more involved with ASI. But that's why I think it's valuable to meet students where they're at. That's why I still continue to work at the rec, why I go to the ag department so frequently on my free time and get involved with clubs and organizations, why I go to the different 8 colleges, and why my endorsement is full of a diverse student body, to be able to advocate just on what students want and meet them where they're at. But yeah, I try my best to make sure that my campaign is full of just transparent and diverse advocacy, as well as I'm not running on a slate. And I did that very, very intentionally to make sure that our executive board is full of different opinions. That way we can share feedback and figure out the best solution with different ideas to best be able to serve our student population.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Canyon next.
So with transparency here on campus and how I want to assure that, and I feel like it's because the information needs to be accessible to the students, and we need to go out and give that information to the students and also hear their issues. From going around to talking to different clubs, there's a number of issues that they have with support from the school and things like that. Not only that, but while tabling, one of the things that I did to try to increase student issues and hearing what they have to say is I had a board up where students could come and write something on on a sticky note some issue that is important to them, regardless of what we are running on. Anything that is important to the students, I want to be an advocate for, and I also want to ensure that students know that I want to help them, which ties into the transparency aspect. I want to make sure that everything I would do in my administration would be reflected, that the students can see and go look for this information themselves and see exactly where their student funds are going and things like that.
Thank you. And then we'll wrap this question up with Ms. Hassan before we go to closing arguments.
I know that Soraya and I's entire campaign has been nothing but student-centered. We spoke to students before we even came up with our campaign points because we wanted to know exactly what was on students' minds right now. And so we spoke to students directly, we've met with clubs, I've spoken in classrooms, and I've had students grill me for 45 minutes about my campaign, and that's exactly what we need in these decision-making spaces. And so transparency and integrity is what we've been leading on in our campaign and what we'll continue to lead on throughout our involvement with ASI. It includes just listening to students and making sure that we have their student needs, we have their students' concerns at the very, very forefront. So we've led with transparency. We have integrity. When we spoke with clubs and they shared that parking was an issue, we told them straight up, it's not something that we're going to run on because we know it's not practical. We've met with students individually who shared that they wish that we could build a coffee shop in the RSU, and we told them that's just not what ASI can do. We're trying to be as transparent as possible with our campaign and trying to be as practical as we can with our campaign points to make sure that what we push for and what we run on are things that are tangible, are things that we can run on, are things that we can get done and accomplish in an academic school year.
Time.
I just want to say thank you all. Thank you to the candidates. We will now open it for closing arguments, starting with Ms. Canyon.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the students for, during my campaigning time, giving me your student issues and making it very clear what is important to you guys so I could touch on that here today. And I am committed to being a leader and an oral advocate for every student on campus. And that main thing, what looks like to me, is to increase our community here back on campus. How Fresno State used to be years ago, after talking to professors who have been here for 20 years, the engagement has gone down, and honestly, our sense of community has. Our events, we don't have very big turnouts. Our athletic events are empty, and events, clubs, and Greek life don't work together anymore. And I want to bring that back to Fresno State and foster a community where everybody feels included and heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hassan. Your closing remarks.
I think I'm the right person for the role of ASI president, not because I want it, but because I have the skills, I have the work ethic, and I have the commitment that is needed for this position. I've done so much with my time as senator, from, like I said, promoting safety with our emergency ice whistles to make sure that students felt safe on campus, to going toe-to-toe with administration and making sure that we can promote affordability through the distribution of free graduation stoles for my college. And I think those are initiatives that students really, really need, and they need someone who's bold, who is going to resist, who's going to push back against administration when it's necessary. And I've already done that. And I know that I can do that and that I will. I'm going to continue to expand on these projects. And I think it's just really, really important because students deserve a person who will consistently meet their needs, who will consistently listen to them. And I've done this work as senator, and I will continue to do this work if elected as president. And I have nothing but hope for our ASI. And yeah, I just hope that students really turn out to vote and to pick the right person for the role.
Thank you. And then Ms. Prada, your closing remarks.
Students rely on public transportation, the cupboard, essential needs office, and financial aid. My priorities lie in improving or partnering with areas to make sure students can gain social mobility post-Fresno State and not get in as much debt. But after that, I want to just say thank you. Thank you to every single student, campaign worker, club endorser who's been able to support me in this journey. As a second-generation Bulldog, Fresno State helped my mom become a teacher, and so I'm super grateful to this university. I love being a Fresno State Bulldog, and it's been so great to be able to hear different stories, hear different perspectives, meet so many people, and just feel the kindness that Fresno State offers. It's an amazing feeling to be a Bulldog, and so thank you. Regardless of results, I appreciate every interaction.
Thank you, Ms. Prado. Thank you again to the three candidates. This is the conclusion of this debate. Don't really have anything prepared to say. So there are still snacks in the back, I'm pretty sure. Thank you all for coming today, and have a good weekend.